So Mattel has given us our first look at the new Masterverse line, as well as a sneak peek into what to expect from the two new animated Masters of the Universe series coming to Netflix. So let's talk about it. Hey guys, I am Pixel Dan, and just thought it would be a good idea to sit down in front of the camera and talk about these new reveals. I've had a bunch of people hitting me up, asking me what I think about it. So what better way to share my opinion than to sit down right here with you guys, and then you can all argue with me and tell me how much you disagree with me, right? That's how we do things around here. So let's just dive right into it. Basically what happened is Mattel did an Analyst Day event where they it's kind of like a like you hear about like earnings calls and stuff like that. So that's essentially what's going on. So part of this, we got some neat little slides that kind of showed us some of the things going on with their Masters of the Universe brand. Now, we know that there are two new cartoons that are coming to Netflix later this year, and this is something that I do want to clarify because I still see a lot of confusion around this. Yes, there are two different Masters of the Universe cartoons coming to Netflix later this year. First, we have Masters of the Universe Revelations. This is the Kevin Smith helmed series, which is supposed to be more for us, the fans, I think, the longtime fans. Because this is the one that's going to have a bit more of a serious tone to it. It's supposed to sort of pick up from the original Filmation storyline, but give us like, I don't know if like an ending is the right word, but it kind of sounds like this is going to be like a one-off little series. But anyway, that's one of them. That's the Kevin Smith helmed one that's been getting the most attention. Then there's going to be a new animated CGI series that is going to be aimed more at kids. That is just simply called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That is a completely separate thing. It's going to probably have a different feel, and as we're about to see, a completely different look because they are targeting a new audience with that show. So, with that being said, why don't we jump right in and look at that? Because one of the slides we got was a look at this new He-Man and Battle Cat from that new kid-aimed series. And this is something. So I hate to be that guy that jumps in and gets like super critical on these first reveals, but sometimes you just kind of have to go with your gut reaction when you look at stuff like this. So immediately my first thought when I looked at this was, it actually seems very 2002, looking very much like the turn that the series took in that era. That's the vibe that I get initially when looking at it. But when you get in there and start looking a little closer, there's some things that really stand out to me. Like the proportions, very stylized in this. He-Man appears to have this massive upper body, these huge arms with this tiny little head and these little bitty legs. And then he's also got this completely new design to the Power Sword, which I'm not a huge fan of, to be perfectly honest. It's another one of those things, I always get real critical of the Power Sword. The original Power Sword is the Power Sword. It's hard to get me to change my mind on that. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. This one, very similar to the 2000X one, which of course I eventually grew to have a love and appreciation of. But this one has sort of that same thing going on where it just feels a little over-designed. There's a little bit much going on with it. And honestly, I can say that same thing about the overall feel of all of this. Battle Cat specifically, like what is going on there? There's just a lot. There's a lot going on with Battle Cat. I mean, it seems very, very much like a lot. One of the things I don't really like about Battle Cat is if you look at himself, like his body under that armor, he seems very skinny. He-Man is huge and buffed out and big, and then Battle Cat looks real thin, and like his back legs specifically. And I know that we've got like there's definitely some stuff going on with like the angle of the shot, right? Because the legs are more in the background, but they look real tiny, right? Like that's not just me. Like he looks like he's got really skinny, really little legs. So yeah, I don't know. My overall first impressions on this is, well, that looks like sort of the way I guess cartoons look now. I don't know if I love it. I showed it to my 7-year-old, and his reaction was, "Whoa, is that Battle Cat? I really like his armor." So, I mean, obviously my kid's not going to be the same as every kid, but they're targeting kids. That was a kid opinion. It is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm going to be more worried about the stories that this tells. Like, if it's good, if the stories are good, if the cartoon is fun and exciting, and we get to see it in motion, sometimes that matters, right? Sometimes, like, seeing these in motion makes all the difference. And at the end of the day, this one is aimed at kids, and I'm going to stick with what I have always said. We need new blood, right? We need new fans. If this show can create new fans with kids, that's only a good thing in the end. And obviously we've got all these other different Masters of the Universe things going on simultaneously right now, so maybe that one's just not for me. I don't know. We will see. Time will tell. I'm not completely in love with what I see by any means right now, but we got a lot still to see on that. I mean, that show's not going to debut until the end of this year, I don't think. And so I'm going to do that thing where I say, let's watch the show, see how it looks, see the feel of it, see how the stories are, and then we'll go from there. That is definitely going to get its own toy line. I imagine those will be more kid-friendly toys, probably a little more basic. So I'm interested to see how these designs translate into toy form. Those very stylized, very exaggerated designs might make for some interesting looking action figures. So we will have to wait and see how that goes. All right, so now let's talk about Mastersverse. So Mastersverse was the new line that was revealed at PowerCon, though back then we didn't actually get to see the figures, just some silhouettes, and we got some basic information. So this is going to be a new line that is going to be similar to the previous Masters of the Universe Classics toy line in that these are supposed to be aimed more for collectors. They're super articulated. They're going to have interchangeable parts. I believe they said that the price point is going to be $24.99, so around the $25 price range. And these will be at retail stores. We don't have a whole lot of information other than that. So this slide that we got today does two things. Number one, it gives us an idea of what to expect these characters to look like in the Kevin Smith Revelations series. We haven't seen much of that yet, so this is kind of our first glimpse into that. Number two, this is our first look at these action figures at all. So let's talk about these. All right, now again, we are looking at a slide that's got some low-res images on it. Not the best quality and not necessarily the best poses. I mean, these are not posed very well, and sometimes that kind of takes away from the overall action figure. But first impressions matter, and this is now effectively our first impression of Mastersverse. So we're going to talk about it as it is. One thing I've already seen people kind of criticizing is the proportions on the figures. To that, all I can say is I would imagine that these proportions are based on the way the characters are animated in the series. So that makes sense to me. Like, these have a very stylized, animated look to them. So they're obviously inspired by the way these characters are going to appear in the animation. So that doesn't really bother me, especially if I watch that show and I end up loving that show. It's cool to get action figures that look like they do in the series. So I think that's what they're going for there. So that part I'm totally fine with. And it's really kind of interesting to see how the overall design of these guys is still very classic. Like, I mean, they didn't slap clothes on He-Man like they did on that new cartoon already. He's still wearing the loincloth and the harness, and Skeletor's the same way. So they look like, silhouette-wise, these guys look like He-Man and Skeletor and Battle Cat. So we've got that going on there. So let's just kind of look at them one by one. So Skeletor there, he's got a really interesting look. I do kind of like that face from what I can see. I think it's kind of neat looking there. It does have a bit of an animated stylized look to it, but it's kind of cool. He does have his very classic look. Looks like he's got a cloth cape, and that doesn't look the best in this picture. So that might look different when we get it in hand. I don't know. What I want to know is what is going on with his hands. He's got interchangeable gripping hands, but he's also got these two hands that are just like totally flat. Like what is that? Is that so he can slap Beastman around? That's his Beastman slapping hands. They look weird. I don't like those at all. His proportions, like I said, have that very animated look. You kind of get a look at the articulation here too. Like these guys have double elbows and double knees. That's something very new for Masters of the Universe figures, because even in Masters Classics, they were all single joints at the elbows and the knees. So we've never really had this type of articulation for a Masters figure before. That's not always like a thing that I personally need, but there's a lot of people out there who like to have superposable figures. So maybe this is something you've been waiting for in your figures. So that's there. He's got the Havoc staff, and also looks like he comes with the Shaping staff. That's a Filmation artifact, and so that's kind of cool to see. Must have something to do with the story that's being told in the new cartoon. So all in all, Skeletor looks all right. He looks pretty good. I'm anxious to see him in person, I think, or at least get some better photos of him that are a little bit more clear, maybe posed a little bit better. I really do think some better posing will do the look of these wonders. Sometimes these very weird, stiff, static poses they use for these like mock-ups just don't do a lot of favors to the overall design of the figure. Also, those Beastman slapping hands gotta go. Those are weird. All right, so He-Man, overall He-Man looks pretty good. The Power Sword is similar to Filmation, similar to the classic, does have a bit of its own design going on there. It's got a very long blade. Looks a little small in his hand, but maybe that's just me, or maybe that's just the photography. It's interesting to see that he's got the H on his chest on the harness instead of the Iron Cross. That's not too surprising, because Mattel has been trying to make that H He-Man's actual logo, dating all the way back to the original Battle Armor He-Man, because it debuted on that figure, and they've slapped it on He-Man multiple times ever since. So it's not surprising to see them using that in this new incarnation. The one thing about He-Man that stands out the most to me is his head. It looks tiny, and also, like, why is He-Man so sad? I don't know why he looks so sad. And again, these are low res. If you zoom in on the face, it gets super blurry, but like, I don't know. I want better pictures of that face so I can see what his face looks like, because it looks so somber and just not fitting of the most powerful man in the universe. So again, I'm getting very nitpicky on some low res images, and I don't always like doing that, but I'm just throwing that out there. Battle Cat, I think, is the figure that stands out the most to me right now. I kind of like the look of Battle Cat. I mean, his silhouette looks good. The armor is very similar in design to the vintage, but it's got a little bit of like stylized touch-ups done to the helmet and everything there. He looks very articulated. He's got more articulation than the Origins one, thankfully, so he can actually bend his paws. I'm curious to see that figure in hand and like his actual scale. With He-Man on his back, he almost looks like he's hunched down a little too small, but this could just be like weird angles on these photos, so I'm anxious to see that one. I like that. I think that's my favorite thing in this particular image. But again, I'm anxious to see better shots of these guys. So the last one on there is Evil Lyn, and she's got the most different look out of everybody. Everybody else looks very classic in design, but they really did some interesting things with Evil Lyn's design. Like, first of all, she's wearing like this long cloak and pants. Evil Lyn doesn't typically wear pants. She's usually wearing kind of like that that leotard type suit. Or sometimes, like in the 2000X series, she had like the long skirt, which was a very cool look for her. So it's interesting to see her wearing like the pants and kind of like a robe. Also, she's got long hair now. The white hair is normal. Evelyn's always had white hair, but she's always been depicted as having very short hair. So it's interesting to see her with her hair grown out. Maybe Evelyn's had some tough times going on. I don't know. But she does have a swappable head with her iconic helmet. Likely how I will display her, because that is what makes her Evelyn to me. She's got her wand staff. She looks like she comes with like a satchel there too. Again, has a very animated look to the face. So I'm anxious to get better images of the overall designs of those. So that's our first glimpse at Masterverse, based on the new Revelations series. So I don't know. I very much have kind of like this, let's wait until we get more kind of feeling about it. Like, I'm definitely not like looking at these and getting like really amped up and really excited yet. But I'm also not ready to just completely dismiss this. You know what I mean? Like, this is just one slide, low res images. Let's get these things up close. Let's see what they've got. So hopefully, now that this is out there and now that everybody out here is posting their opinions, including me, that will spur Mattel to give us some better pictures. Maybe they'll post more reveals and show us more of the figures that are coming out, because I'm definitely anxious to see more of this. I want to see what the plans are with this. So, the other thing that I really started thinking about is this means that we're going to have 3 simultaneous Masters of the Universe toy lines on retail shelves. We're going to have Origins, which is inspired by the vintage toy line. We're going to have Mastersverse, which, as we know it right now, is going to be based around the Kevin Smith helmed Revelation series. And then we're going to have the new kids-themed Masters of the Universe toy line based on the CGI show. So that's really interesting to me, because that's the most different types of Masters of the Universe toy lines we've ever had on a shelf at the same time. And I guess you can also count the fact that we've got the minis on the shelves right now, and the Mega Constructs, and so there's a lot of Masters of the Universe to go around. Each of those lines almost targets a different audience. There's obviously going to be crossovers, right? Because there's people like me who just like He-Man, and we're going to sample all the toys, or we're going to buy all the toys, or whatever. But each of those different segments kind of does attract a different crowd. You got the kids line, you've got the Netflix animated line, and then you've got the line that is like inspired by the vintage toys that's kind of targeted at us who remember that vintage line. It's going to be really interesting to see if these can exist side by side on the store shelves. And the only reason I say that is because I know that in the past, Mattel has always been concerned with market confusion. If you think about a regular, and it's weird to say this, like a regular mom and dad, but when I say that, I mean like somebody who's not really in the know on this stuff like you or I might be, where we're actively collecting this stuff and we're actively keeping up with this stuff. So just say like a regular person walking in the store to buy their kid a He-Man figure, they might be overwhelmed by 3 very different types of He-Man toys on the shelves. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to me, I think, to see if each of those different groups of people can sustain each of those different types of toy lines. It also makes me wonder if Mattel's going to wrap up Origins. And I don't want to like sound doom and gloom or anything, but if like they really want to focus on these new interpretations, maybe, because like they've been flying through Origins. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but there is so much Origins coming out this year, and they are like knocking out all of the characters. Maybe that's by design. Maybe this isn't meant to go on forever, and maybe they're going to shift their focus to the other 2 lines. I want you guys to know that I am completely speculating right now. I have 0 idea what the plans are for any of this stuff, and I might be completely wrong about this. But I've obviously, I've been, like a lot of you, I've been watching these toy lines and these toy companies for many, many, many years now. I've been watching the industry. So, sometimes you kind of know what to expect and what to look for with this sort of thing. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all this plays out. So I guess that's where I'm at. Right now, I'm feeling very lukewarm about it all. And I don't necessarily mean that to be a bad thing. What I really want is just more information. Revealing these to us in an investor call with like a low-res screenshot is weird and probably not the best first impression. So I really hope that now that this is out there, Mattel will follow up and give us more information, some high-res photos, maybe some great images of the figures being posed, so we can really see what makes Revelations or Mastersverse stand out from the already amazing Masters of the Universe Classics toy line, for example. That's what I am intrigued by right now. And to be perfectly honest, while the design of the CGI Kids thing isn't really wowing me at the moment, it's going to be one of those things where I think those designs are going to be very toyetic, and they might make some fun-looking toys for kids. So I'm interested to see what Mattel does with that as well. So there you go. That's what Pixel Dan thinks of everything. You don't have to agree with me. And if you don't, that's cool. That's cool. We can all still be fans, right? We can all still love He-Man and stuff. I mean, look at behind me. I got so many great He-Man toys that I've loved over the years, so I guess I don't have to love all of them, right? Well, yeah, I'm just trying to be optimistic, guys. I'm trying to have fun here. I don't want to be doom and gloom. I don't like to be overly critical, especially when, like, we just don't have a lot of information or good photos yet. But again, first impressions matter. So I think that's just kind of the moral of the story today. So there you guys go. Feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you think. It's totally cool if you hate them. It's totally cool if you love them. Just remember, like, we're all fans at the end of the day. So that's all that really matters. I don't really know what else to say to end this video. Buy my He-Man toy book.
The Toys of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is available for pre-order now. This official guidebook is published by Dark Horse Books and features over 750 pages of photos and information on your favorite He-Man and She-Ra action figures. And don't miss out on the exclusive bundle pack available for pre-order now from PowerCon. This bundle includes the official guide as well as an exclusive character guide supplement that you won't be able to buy anywhere else. Don't miss out. You have the power.